everybody. Mike Gauthier here at One Elgin Restaurant at the National Arts Centre. We are delighted to have another guest chef with us this week, Chef Carmen Ingham from the West Coast. Chef, welcome.
Thank you so much. It's great to be here.
You came from a long way away. Can you tell us, introduce yourself and tell us where you're from?
Sure. My name is Carmen Ingham. I am from, these days I kind of just say Vancouver Island. I live in Victoria currently. I've spent a lot of time in Tofino over the past few years between those two towns. And I grew up originally in Vancouver, but
Oh, you did?
I'm an island guy now, yeah.
Are you based out of Vancouver now, or are you still an island guy?
Still an island guy. I left Vancouver in about, 2011 or so, and haven't really lived full-time there ever since. But Vancouver's a little busy for me. I like smaller spaces and a little bit more kind of connection to nature and that kind of thing. So I've been really enjoying it on the island ever since.
So now, there's Tofino, there's The Point as well. Were those your two kind of seminal restaurant experiences as a chef, or would you add others to that too?
Yeah, I would say, if I was going to describe the most important places I worked at, working at Sonora Resort, I always kind of call that my college experience in cooking, just because I was there for 4 seasons. They're 6-month-long seasons, and you're working for 30 to 40 days in a row, and then a couple days off, and then you do it again. And it's so very, very intense. I started there as a breakfast cook kind of earlier on, and then spent my latter 2 seasons as a sous chef. So really learned a ton in that place. And I just learned to love, working in a kind of wilderness luxury resort. It became the style of restaurant that really resonated with me the most. So that place was really important. I spent some time at a little restaurant called Olo in Victoria.
Yeah.
It was just a phenomenal place. It was really, really simple in the sense that it was a dinner-only, farm-to-table restaurant. I could change the menu whenever I wanted. So it was, every couple days, one dish would change kind of thing, just based off the produce we were getting.
Nice.
Everything was organic, but we didn't really brag about it. It was just what we did. And so, we got really amazing ingredients. So that was wonderful. And then the Wick was just, I got a call to take over the Wick. I wasn't applying for a new job. I was at Olo at the time, checking a reference on someone who had applied to Olo from the Wick. And the chef had mentioned that he was looking to find a replacement and really liked the work that I was doing and was hoping I would do it. So it was a great way to get a new job because, like I said, I wasn't looking to move on from Olo, but the Wick on Inishin is just such a legendary property and really a place I couldn't turn down an opportunity to run. So.
And how long were you there for?
For 4 years, yeah.
I kind of want to shift the conversation a bit here simply because I'd heard you talk about ingredients and about, not using certain ingredients.
Right.
I think it was farmed salmon was the one I'd heard
Farmed salmon is the thing I'm probably, will never use. Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
I guess first thing I want to ask is what is farmed salmon? Basically they're actually in the ocean?
Yes. And so fish farming in general, this is a big topic. I have to say I'm absolutely not against aquaculture or fish farming.
Okay.
There's a lot of fish farming that's really great. And shellfish farming even better. Shellfish farming is a fantastic thing for the ocean. Actually cleans the ocean in some ways. Fish farming can be great. It can also be a
exploitative,
reprehensible thing to do. And it really depends on what you're farming, where you're farming it, and how. And salmon farming in particular tends to be the most negative type out there, and that's specifically the open pen fish farms that we have in the West Coast.
Okay.
And so essentially we have, sometimes I guess the worst form of it would be farming Atlantic salmon in the West Coast because it's not a native species.
Yeah.
And sometimes we're farming Pacific varieties, which there's 5 of, which is a little bit better, but really it pollutes the ocean to this very high degree, spreads sea lice, which kills the native populations of wild salmon, and it just can have a lot of really negative side effects that ultimately have taken a big toll on the wild salmon populations. And these fish farms are almost always in, they're not way far out in the ocean. They're right next to rivers and kind of important areas that are going to have some large effects on the native populations. But at the same time, there are inland fish farms, places that operate in either man-made areas or in lakes that have very good, drainage systems and things like that, where I think it's a great way to raise different types of protein, and it's very positive for, the food systems and that kind of thing.
You're on your own now, and what's your dream setup? What kind of food do you want to be putting out now that you have kind of complete control over it? And of course, assuming you had all the money you needed and place to make it and all of that, what would be your best setup?
Well, for me, I love really using wild ingredients. That's kind of my biggest passion. I love working at the Wicked Inishin because being in Tofino, it was a place where we really had a huge wealth of kind of wild products to show off. And so whether that's the seafood or the different types of mushrooms and wild berries and stuff like that from the forest, that was great. And so I want to continue using those products as much as I can. The idea of kind of Canadian cuisine it's a hard thing to define. It's a massive country, it's very young, and it's made up of settlers from all around the world. And so trying to define Canadian cuisine is kind of hard, but it's something I've been really interested in the idea of for a very long time. And I think that there's no better way to do it than using the ingredients that come from this land naturally. So that's what I want to continue working with. What the venue is for that's going to be something I need to figure out over the next little while.
Yeah.
Whether it's, kind of intimate catering type things or having a standalone restaurant again, I'm not quite sure yet. But using those products is the thing that is going to tie it together no matter what.
And again, when you're not working for someone, it's scary, but there's also an element of freedom in it.
Yeah.
Would you want a small team, a big team? I interviewed one chef, for example, who said all he wants to do now is put 12 people around him at 5 o'clock and make dinner in front of them.
Yeah.
Until about 9 or 10, and that's his day. And he'll do all his prep, he'll do all his shopping, and he'll do all the serving, and he'll collect all the money. But at the same time, it didn't sound like it was about money. It was about just being able to control that whole process and to be responsible for the whole process.
I think, as much as it sounds nice a little bit on the surface, I think you'd lose a lot of what makes restaurant work so fun and enjoyable, which is that kind of team environment. I first fell in love with it because it reminded me of playing sports. And it was, the high pressure, working with the team, just working against time, all those kind of things all the time. That's the part that first hooked me. It wasn't cooking itself, it was the feeling of being in the kitchen. And so, doing that, 12 people around a table, all you, that kind of thing, as fun as that might sound and as kind of risk-free in terms of not needing a team, I think it might get a little bit boring as well, and a little bit lonely too. You get to interact with the guests, but you don't have the prep team with, all that kind of thing. And I think
it's a bit too transactional, maybe. At least with the team, you're all together trying to serve all these people. So
the social aspect of a restaurant is something that you can't really. It's priceless. And
it doesn't actually exist anywhere else, I find. I think it's the ambient noise and the interaction. There's just so many people meeting one another.
Yeah.
And the dynamic always changes, even though it's always the same room every night.
Yeah. It can be chaos, but it's kind of addictive.
That's when you need a team. You can hold each other's hand through it.
Yeah.
Okay, I think we'll wrap it up there. Thanks for watching, everybody. Appreciate your support, and we'll see you next time.
Thank you. Thanks a lot.
Oh, thank you.
Cheers.
This is great.